So hey everyone, tomorrow at noon is the big Porchfest in the Tower District in Fresno, California. So I've got to get ready to load up my gear, and so I'm going to kind of walk you through all my gear here while I take the whole setup apart and you can see how it kind of goes together. So anyway, let's get started. My chair is actually, people ask me about this, it's a cellist's chair. And it's adjustable, and so I can get the right height for working my feet and my hands at the same time. I also use organist's shoes. These are very similar to like ballroom dance shoes, soft sole, no edges to get caught on the pedals, and these are actually called organ master shoes. I'm going to be doing two new pieces. The Last Elephant I premiered at the Rogue Festival, and then I have a brand new piece called Aurora Borealis that'll be heard for the first time at Porchfest. So since they're new, I still need a little cheat sheet to work from. Always have extra stuff with you. I have extra audio cables, extra USB cords in this bag, and that's just in case something goes wrong with the main audio connections and computer connections, as we'll see as we get into breaking that down. So the primary sound source for my performances actually come out of this laptop. It's just a basic notebook with a pipe organ emulator called Hopwerk, and I have all of the keyboards, the pedal board, and everything plug into the computer, and that's where the sounds start. And this is a newer part of the setup, and I'm still using the original cardboard box, which I'm going to have to get something different as that breaks down. We also, Hopwerk needs the iLock dongle. If you use any VST software, you know about that. And so that all goes in the original box, along with my little notebook so I can remind myself where everything is in the setup, as far as presets and which songs go with which presets and all that good stuff. Okay. One of the things I'm going to have to invest in here, if I do more of these gigs, is some proper cases for the keyboards and the computer and all the other stuff, as well as some refinements. And I'll be doing some videos in the future talking about plans for some of that. So my music is very reliant on effects processing. So I use delay effects to create rhythmic patterns that are not otherwise possible. And I use various reverb effects to create immersions that are not otherwise possible. So I have these multi-effects processors. Right now I'm using these rack mount units, which are actually a little cumbersome to carry around. And these are older units. There's better stuff out there, but for now that's what I got. So I've got this rack set up pretty nice with kind of there's an umbilical cord that has all the audio connections. See that in a second. And then there's a couple of USB cords. This is the power for the computer. We'll put that in the computer box. And then there's just this single USB cord that comes from a hub in behind here. The other thing is I got to get MIDI signal over to the processors, and so I have a MIDI signal coming off the main keyboard, and then that goes to a splitter, and then I have the two MIDI cables that go into the effects processors that need MIDI changes from time to time. And then we have our snake, as it's sometimes called. One end of the snake is all plugged in under here where it needs to go, and the other end of the snake goes over to my looping system. And that's another thing that my music uses a lot of, is the looping, and I use the Roland RC600 multi-track looper. And so on the floor we have a few things. The RC600 looper, and then there's this snake umbilical that comes down off of the deck here from underneath these keyboards to connect things up. I have this pedal set up which allows me to change presets up, down, and then if I am using a piano sound, I still have the damper or sustain pedal. And as a organist, and this being essentially an organ, I also have to have pedal board, not in the effects pedal board sense of things, but in the organist pedal board sense of things. And that too has its own little umbilical that comes down for power and MIDI. And so I can play bass notes from this. So this stuff has to all go with the computer, and then the RC600 has to go in its box. Let me go get those taken care of. And the RC600, I'm still using its original box, and a couple of different things in here. Extra MIDI cables, just like having extra audio and extra USB and computer stuff. I have all of this stuff available just in case something gives up the day of the show. And those fit nicely in here. And my RC600 is well protected. So this is also where I do my general keyboard practice. Every day I go through, some of you pianists out there will recognize the Hanon Virtuoso Pianist exercises, and I go through these almost every day. It takes a couple hours, and that's what's keeping my aging hands in good shape. So if I had all the music memorized, which the two new ones I don't, wouldn't need to take the music rack, but we're taking the music rack. The stand that the two keyboards set on is a custom build that I made myself. And again, we've set it up so that everything is neat and tidy in here. And I think I'll bring the camera over here to show you some of this stuff in here. Let me get this out of the way. So this setup involves a lot of connections to get everything to communicate the way I need it to do, and to get most of the data stream that's being generated here into the computer. So looking at the back of our main controller, we have inputs for those foot switches that I showed you. We have our USB connection, which goes into this USB hub, heads over to the computer. There's another USB cable that comes up from the RC600. You have the power for the main keyboard, and then two different MIDI connections. One is an in connection, which comes from the pedal board and from the second keyboard, and then those go into a merge box so that I can have a single cable going into the main keyboard here. And then this stuff can all just sit in this area while we're going from spot to spot. I got my set list on a sticky note, and now this keyboard is ready to get out of the way. And so the next thing is our little umbilicals that come from our central processing location here. This is the connections for the pedal board, the power, and the MIDI. This is for the second keyboard, the C200. And then we have over here a group of cables that go down to the other foot pedal unit for switching presets and so forth, as well as the USB and power for the RC600. And then, of course, we have our regular power strip, and that is right here. And then all of this, for now, just sits kind of there. We have multiple power supplies for each of the devices. Power strip, of course, to plug everything in. I have a MIDI merge box for pulling two different signals together, and then over here I have a MIDI splitter which takes the MIDI signal from the main keyboard going out to the rack where the effects processors are. So I can plug multiple cables in over there. And so now we gotta fold this up, and this is actually a little heavier than I'd like it to be, but it is what it is. So this was a folding keyboard stand, and I built this setup, but it's for stacking the two keyboards and having this bay here for putting all the power supplies and cables and all of that stuff. And then the platform with the cleats on it for lining everything up is in two sections. And so that's it. Now we're ready to head on out to the Porchfest tomorrow, 12 noon, 1263 North Van Ness, right behind the Tower Market. I'll be playing some of my, what I call, ambient post-rock electronica. So there's 280 different groups performing on 75 different porches. It's going to be quite a lot of fun. And there's the phone. See you next time.